Bay. Me, your man, Louis T. Welcome to the Command Post. You know what it is. Post up. Take command. I, of course, am your Commander-in-Chief, Louis T. Thank you for joining me. So, Washington made some roster moves yesterday that I think we've been waiting on for a while now, and a lot of things are starting to come into focus. We've been waiting on Andrew Norwell to get cut. I've been talking about how I don't even include him in a lot of the discussions that we have. Ron has not included him in any of the discussions that they've had about left guard this year or the offensive line as a whole. And I told you, you can glean a lot from what Ron says and what he doesn't say. When Ron is very excited about a player, he'll talk for 30 seconds to a minute about a guy with a nice little grin on his face, you know. But when Ron is done with you, it's 1 to 2 lines max. It's throwaway. It's quick. It's 5 to 7 seconds, and we're moving on to the next topic. And so Andrew Norwell was in that doghouse, essentially, where you knew it was over for him. But we watched him play last year, and we knew that he didn't have much more to offer this football team after what he put on the field last season. So he was placed on the PUP reserve list, and essentially what that is allowing Washington to do is to hold on to him until he's able to pass a physical. Because if he can't pass a physical, then Washington has to release him, and they have to pay him an injury settlement. If he can pass a physical, they move on, they cut bait, they don't pay him a single thing, and so they're just waiting for him to be able to pass a physical examination. Remember, last year he had a big elbow brace on his right elbow. That's what's ailing him right now. So they put him on the PUP list. They'll continue to monitor that situation, and once he can pass a physical, he will be released. So putting him on the PUP list frees up a roster spot. They also cut cornerback Cameron Dantzler. This is a guy that we talked about earlier in the offseason when we got him, and we said there are no guarantees here. They were kicking the tires. Obviously, I felt like he would at least make it to camp. I thought he would make it to camp, but you know what ultimately happened was the draft proved to be very fruitful for Washington, particularly in the secondary. And listening to Ron, and I've got a lot to say about what Ron had to say today, and we're going to do that on a separate video because there's so much to comb through. But one of the things Ron made abundantly clear is that they didn't just get one corner in the draft, they got two, because they really like Quan Martin as a guy that can move all around the secondary, which is why they gave him the title of DB. Remember, I talked about this very specifically on the Washington Commanders team website. He's listed as a DB. There are no other guys in the secondary that are listed as DBs. Everyone's got a specific position, corner, safety. His says DB, and it's because they feel just as confident with him playing as a safety as they do in a slot, as they do as an outside boundary corner. And so with all of that said, you got Forbes, and now you got Quan Martin coming into a group that they already feel good about with Danny Johnson, Kendall Fuller, and Benjamin St-Juste already being there. Again, you got some of the young guys from last year that they're continuing to work with, Wild Goose and Castro Fields. So it was going to be hard for him to crack this roster, all right? And not to dismiss SIP either, Christian Holmes. It was going to be hard for him to come in as an outsider and beat out all of these guys. And that's why I had him on my list of guys that were in roster danger, right? I didn't expect him to get cut this soon, though. But I think the emergence, and I've told you guys this, it doesn't take long for a staff to figure out what they have. And once they saw what they were able to do with Quan Martin, knowing what they are going to get out of, or what they expect to get out of Emmanuel Forbes, it made it a lot easier for them to move on from Cam Dantzler. So he is out as well. They cut him yesterday, which freed up another roster spot. So you free up 2 roster spots. They go out and sign 2 guys. They bring in a safety in Terrell Burgess, who was a 3rd-round pick of the Los Angeles Rams in 2020. I remember scouting him, watching him at the University of Utah. He had a unique skill set, felt like he could be a really solid. I didn't expect him to be a star in this league by any stretch of the imagination, but I thought he could be a really solid player in this league as a safety So Washington is going to give him a look-see, kick the tires there. Again, don't expect either one of these guys that they signed today to make the roster, but stranger things have happened. Um, I think last year with the tight end position in particular is the greatest example of anything can happen. Don't count anybody out. But the likelihood is that safety position is loaded. There's a slim to none chance that Terrell Burgess is on this football team once the 53-man roster is set. And then they signed a tight end in Brandon Dillon. I personally don't trust him. He's got two first names. Never, ever trust a man with two first names. So he's a guy that's been around the block a couple of times. Jets, Vikings, Saints most recently. They're bringing him in for depth at the tight end position. At the end of the day, you don't want to run your guys into the ground because, as I've told you, we're not going to see. I think this is going to be another change that you see with this team this preseason. I could be wrong. I hope I'm wrong. I'd like to see them. You know, I'd like to see the offensive line get some reps. I'd like to see them be a little bit cohesive in the preseason. But I don't know if we're going to see a lot of these guys in the preseason games. And you don't want to put a lot of these guys out there and play them a whole hell of a lot if you don't have to. You also want to take some of these reps off of the lap of some of these players that you expect to be on the football team. So you bring in guys like Brandon Dillon. You bring in guys like Terrell Burgess to take some of these reps away from guys that you know are going to make this football team. So, and again, just because you're not going to make the team doesn't mean you won't be on the practice squad. The practice squad has become more valuable than ever with the changes that they've made to the practice squad and the availability of these players and how you can maneuver the practice squad on game days and things of that nature. The practice squad is very, very useful. It is an incredible tool now for these teams since COVID hit and they made all of these adjustments to how you can utilize your practice squad. So just because a guy doesn't make the team, in the case of, say, a Terrell Burgess, doesn't mean he won't be a valuable asset to Washington as a guy on the practice squad that they can just pull up should an injury arise. So, again, don't just dismiss these players because they're not going to make the football team. The practice squad is a huge tool for these teams now. And to me, the 10 guys that they put on that practice squad are just as important as the back 5 or 6 guys that make the team because one or two injuries – and you're tapping into that reserve, and you need guys that can step in and give you quality snaps, albeit special teams or actually playing on defense or offense, doesn't matter. You need guys because we don't talk about special teams until there's a breakdown, till something goes awry. You want to keep it so that it doesn't happen and that we're not talking about special teams giving up big plays. You want to keep that cupboard full, and you want to have quality football players there. And again, injuries are going to happen. That's the nature of the NFL. You want guys that can step in and don't have you falling off of a cliff. So these guys probably aren't going to make the football team, but they could be, you know, integral parts of the practice squad when it's all said and done. So Washington moves around some pieces on the roster, and they're not done yet. I think you're going to see some more shuffling of the deck. It won't be anything major, right? I don't think you're going to see any major moves. But everything will be done according to how the roster is shaped. And if things, you know, necessitate change, i.e., the only reason they're making a move for Brandon Dillon is because of the injury to Amani Rodgers, right? So when things like that happen, you bring in other guys that help you kind of fill that room back out, right? So I think as long as we stay relatively healthy, you won't see many more changes. And some of that has to do with the ownership, limbo right now, because Ron has spoken about how they're kind of at the mercy of waiting until the new ownership group comes in before they actually do anything. And we'll talk more about that with the Ron presser video, because I thought Ron had a very insightful press conference today that I want to talk about at greater length and detail. And I don't want this video to run on longer than it needs to. So just wanted to come in here and update you. You guys already knew that stuff. It happened yesterday, so I'm pretty sure you've already been privy to that information. But, everything is starting to make more sense. Why haven't they released Andrew Norwell? Because he wasn't able to pass a physical. Okay, makes sense now. So all of the pieces of the puzzle are starting to fit together. And, I'm really interested to see how everything kind of comes together because I still think there are some positions that are of note, specifically on the offensive line, that depending on how things go, you could see some more transactions taking place. I think they've done enough work on the offensive line to this point, and now it's just about who wants it more. And we're not going to find those things out until the pads are on, right? We won't know any of that stuff until late July into early August, the dog days of training camp as we head into the first week of the preseason. We won't really know any of those things until the pads come on. So um, we'll see what happens. But that's where we are right now. Just wanted to give you that brief update. And I got a lot to say. So make sure you tune in to the Ron Rivera presser video from today because I thought Ron definitely dropped a few gems on our melon. And I thought he gave us some insight into some things that are very interesting, to say the least. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louis T, here on the Command Post. You know what it is. Post up, take command. I hope you guys enjoyed the Super Friends stream last night. That was a lot of fun, as it usually is. The next time that we get together, we're going to make season predictions for all the teams in the division. And so hopefully you'll be able to tune into that. But if you haven't tuned in yet, go ahead and check it out. A lot of fun, a lot of trash talk as normal. And hopefully you guys enjoy that. And remember, if you watch the stream, if you are looking to cop some merch, now is the time. All right, use that promo code that you saw in the video to get free shipping across the site wide. Doesn't matter what you're buying. Doesn't matter if you're creating your own, your own storefront. Whatever the case may be, everything is free in terms of shipping right now. Take advantage of this. If you're looking to cop a hat or a shirt or whatever, now's the time to do it. So looking forward to you guys continuing to support the movement. Can't thank you enough. And guess what? I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one. Louis T Network.